much. Goeiemôre, of goeiemiddag. Ek hoop dit gaan goed met julle almal. Lena Lameki Amanda Kinwana wa Maruti le mooki. Ki khuletse ke mo Botswana le Botswana. So now I'm going to do this presentation in my third language, which is English. And the reason why I did this introduction this way is to kind of also set the scene to why I did this research and why I think that digital game-based learning is the way to go. So why digital game-based learning? When I started my master's back in 2018, at my undergrad university, they always said studies is it's a career, it's not a race. So I took 6 years to do my master's. And why I went with digital game-based learning back in 2018, pre-COVID, was because of the bigger class sizes, students wanting to engage with content in a different way. And then during COVID, this was just accelerated. But to set the definitions, it's a very new field. It depends on who you ask. There's a different definition. If you're in the global north, there's a different definition. If you're in the global south, there is. But for the purpose of this, digital game-based learning is where you put the student in the driver's seat. So you create a learning environment where they navigate through the coursework using games. Gamification, on the other hand, is seen as an add-on. So it doesn't take over the whole lesson. It's an add-on. For an example of gamification is badges or a leaderboard. So it doesn't form an integral part of the pedagogy. So why equity matters in digital game-based learning adoption? I'm taking the position of a lecturer. And if I think of myself, I'm in my early 40s. I grew up, like I said, in Botswana. I grew up, we got the internet when I was, I think, in standard 8. And my dad was the only one allowed to use the internet. So if we wanted to use the internet, we had to make an appointment with my dad, stand next to him, and then he would navigate, because the internet is this funny, weird thing. Luckily, I learned how to use a computer because my dad bought computers. He got sponsorship somewhere, and he taught all the community kids how to use a computer. I only went to school in South Africa, as we called it, when I went to standard 6, and that was 1995, which was also an interesting time. So if I think of myself and my journey with computers and with digital literacy, and I see my peers of my age and older, the first years that I teach grasps all of these concepts a lot faster. So in the past, we had unequal access to digital technologies. Currently, we have unequal access to digital technologies, and I see that for the foreseeable future as well. So there is a digital divide, and there has been, and unfortunately, I think it's still continuing. So now, with me being conscious of there being a digital divide, why am I going with a digital game? Because I went with digital games because I think at WITS we are privileged. I wouldn't say digital games is going to work for the whole of Africa necessarily, but there are ways in doing this. But I think digital game-based learning can level the playing field and can include more students into student-centered learning. So the problem, my idea was, okay, let's design games. Let's see, let's all just roll it out, and then everybody's going to be happy, until I started speaking with lecturers at WITS, because my day job is kind of like a business analyst, where I translate between people who are digitally savvy and people who are not. And the people who are usually not digitally savvy is the lecturers, unfortunately. So as part of that, I realized people don't really know even what is available. They don't know what questions to ask. And then I started looking for a tool so that I can measure where the hotspots are and where we can mitigate and improve. So then I couldn't find a tool worldwide that addresses the specific question that I had. There were a few tools available um, around asking general questions about how students experience games, but nothing from the lecturer perspective. Um, so I then designed my study around developing a validated um, instrument to create awareness, understanding, and then the implementation of digital games. So for the instrument development, I first did a scoping review, but I asked the wrong question for my scoping review. So I didn't get the results. And then I I did a literature review first, didn't ask the correct question. And then I had to go over to a scoping review where I identified 5 studies and then extracted the questions from there. Then I did a pilot study with experts, and then I rolled out the instrument to 60 experts worldwide. And then they evaluated the questions for me after that. So first I did a face validity survey with RedCap, and then I did a content validity survey. So my survey themes covered how science educate the use of technology in teaching, how science educate awareness of digital game-based learning, their understanding, the implementation of digital game-based learning. And then these items helped us identify the gaps um, in implementing game-based learning. So for most of my questions and for most of my themes, I got high ratings across the board. There were one theme that we excluded completely. I'll discuss that a bit further now. Then we made revisions, and then we determined that the final instrument is reliable and relevant. So for section 1, we had different interquartile ranges, but overall, and we just made a few adaptations to the way some of the questions were asked. The section about the awareness, we ended up excluding completely because the questions were around the definition of game-based learning, and it kind of assumed that everybody sees game-based learning and gamification through the same lens, which is not true. So we excluded that completely, and we just ended up adding the definitions at the top of the survey. Section 3, we only modified 4 out of 5 questions, and then one was excluded because the question was a bit ambiguous. Section 4, we excluded 6 questions, and then 3 were modified, and 1 was retained as is. And then the implications of the survey is that it will assess educator readiness for game-based learning. It informs curriculum design, and it guides institutional strategy and future research. It promotes equitable teaching by providing support needs. So the themes also aligned with 3 theoretical frameworks, which is the constructivist, behaviorist, and social constructivism, which I ground most of my digital game-based learning projects on. And then the perspectives from coming out of the survey. This is just the pilot survey. We haven't run it with in an official capacity yet, is that the key areas assessed were awareness, understanding, and implementation. The common barriers were time constraints, either by the lecturers saying they don't have time to develop a game because it does take a lot of time to develop it, but also time in the curriculum. Also, the questions were asked like, how does this integrate into the curriculum? And then also the fact that lecturers had limited involvement in the design. So they were saying they're not sure how to approach the game designers. They're not sure what to ask for, what's available. And then bridging these gaps, I think will pave the way to more integrated projects around this. This should have been in the beginning. I'm sorry. I was looking for the slide. So as I said, it's the interchangeable, there's interchangeable use of the definitions, and that is still a niche area where we still need to develop. So the strengths and research potential is we can have a standardized tool. We have it now. And then we can apply the factor analysis and then refine the instrument and then expand the research a bit more. One of the other highlights that came out of the study is institutional support, because I experienced it, and the lecturers also confirmed that sometimes they feel that WITS as an institution, because I did this in WITS, doesn't understand what game-based learning and gamification is, and because there's no understanding from the institution, there's no support. And there were also lecturers that said, I don't want to gamify anything in my module because then the students won't take me seriously. So, and then another person also told me that, or wrote in that they said that my course is a serious course. I don't have time for nonsense and games. So, so there's also that perception. So just from I think I have highlighted this a bit, but I mean, the awareness gaps may reflect a broader institutional and access disparities, prioritize training and resources for all educators, and then we need to build inclusive communities of practice. So the future research directions, I'm carrying on with this project for my PhD, where I did my master's in health science, but I'm doing my PhD in humanities to see if we can broaden the scope. And then also just to ask equity-focused questions. How does digital game-based learning awareness vary by institution, and what factors support equitable adoption? So I just want to acknowledge my master supervisors, Prof. Bruce and Prof. Barnett Ashton. And then I did have ethics for this, and I did use AI for image generation, and just because English is my third language, just for general language. Thank you very much. Oh, and before I forget, sorry. So if you want to see one of our gaming projects in action, Anne and I and a few others are presenting one of our games after the break. Thank you.
All right, colleagues. So thank you. Thank you, Amanda. So I just want to know, are there any questions, any comments from colleagues out here? Do we have any on the Padlet or chat? Yes, go for it, Tanya.
Thank you, Amanda. I was wondering, how long does it take to implement an aspect of gamification for, a unit vis-a-vis a course or a module? Or
Thank you for that question. I think it depends on what you want to do. If we design this gaming simulation, or if there's a lot of design work going with it, it can take up to 6 months. But that's like, to be honest, also usually we wait for the lecturer for feedback because they're very busy. So we decide on the project, and then we start designing it, and then we have the regular check-ins with lecturers to see if we're on the right track, because they are the content specialists. So an example is we're busy with a game now, and it's going to take us 2 months to finish. If it's just badges or just gamification, then that can be up and running within a week or two. So it all depends on what the needs are. But for us, I found if we can kind of have a 6 months lead time for the whole project, that kind of works best. But it doesn't necessarily mean 6 months of constant work. It's an iterative process. Yeah. Thanks.
There is a question at the back. Shane?
Thank you. I'm just interested to know what software do you use or what platform do you use to implement gamification and digital game-based learning?
At the moment, we are using the learning management systems. So we're using Moodle and Ulwazi for the gamification aspects of it. But if we do game design, we do a lot of work in Minecraft Education Edition. And then we also do work in Articulate Storyline, and in Godot as well. Yeah, so that's what we do at the moment.
Right. I have a question. So you noted enthusiasm, but there was uncertainty, right, among the educators. So what kinds of professional learning or the interventions do you anticipate or you think would be most effective, to bridge those gaps?
Thanks. So we have started with interventions this year already in the School of Therapeutic Sciences, and we had a 3-4 week Minecraft course where we kind of introduced some lecturers to Minecraft Education Edition, and we actually then inspired that lecturer with the know-how to ask us to build a game for them. And that game went live at the beginning of September with her students, and it was a very successful iteration. So this specific lecturer didn't design the game herself, but we equipped her with the language and with what is available so that she could converse with us. And it was a very difficult topic. It was in physiotherapy about the different motor theories. And we actually built a breakout room in Minecraft and all of that. And then the students actually asked if we can do all the theory that they have to do in physio this way.
Okay. Thank you.
We have a question around support. So, what specific forms of support did educators say would be the most valuable around this? And was it funding, release time, technical support, or something else?
I think to generalize the statement, time for them was the most needed in game design. Time to plan the project and build it out, but also time in the curriculum more than anything else.
Yes, Rita, go for it.
So as any of your pro games been able to include assessment processes, and in what ways and how does that work?
There is potential in gamification and game-based learning for assessment and game-based simulations as well. And the University of Stellenbosch is actually implementing it in their med school very successfully. I'm still looking for someone at WITS that is brave enough to allow us to implement it here. But there is a lot of potential because there is tracking and all of that, and you do get marks. And in the anaphylaxis simulation that we're showcasing after lunch, actually the students do get marks for everything. So, and that pulls through on the learning management system and in the grade book. So, but no one has been brave enough to use it formally yet. Yeah, I was also hoping for for hands now, but I'll check my inbox.
Okay, so we have another question from the Padlet. So in health sciences, where simulation is already a common pedagogy, how did you and the experts distinguish between simulation and a game?
That is a very interesting question. um, because simulation and gaming has a lot of the same fundamentals. And just with the rest of the definitions around gaming and game-based learning and all of that, there is a gray area around what is which. So we kind of differentiated between simulation as and simulation gaming, as simulation just being you go through the ropes, you don't get any rewards, you don't get any badges, and all of that, while a simulation game includes rewards and a point system. And also in our gaming simulations, we are building in feedback loops and debriefing sessions as well.
Are there any, yes, at the back, May?
Hello, hi Amanda, I'm May. We finally meet. So I just want to ask, so you did mention you're using Minecraft as your setup. So I'm really just fascinated by how gamify environments like Minecraft can be used for critical thinking, because as we know, critical thinking is not really just generic skills, but quite discipline specific. So how do you identify the particular kinds of thinking you wanted for your students to practice on, and how are these scaffolded in the game?
So, yeah, we use Minecraft a lot, but unfortunately, we can only use Minecraft on campus because it requires about 2 gigs per hour to use Minecraft. So in COVID, we made videos of the Minecraft games just because we that was the only option. Um, Critical thinking is very important, and especially in health sciences. So we kind of go with a fail fast process. So if you do something wrong, then your patient immediately deteriorates or something similar. But we do implement adaptive learning as well, where there's loops. So we kind of, when we design the game, we identify that this is the learning outcome and this is the critical thinking going with this outcome. And then we do design a loop around that. So for instance, um, if you, in our Minecraft physio game, if you don't answer the question correctly, you get teleported somewhere else. And then you have to watch another video about that, and then you come back in. Yeah, I think, does that answer your question?
Okay, we have another one from the chat from Najma. Amanda, would you be willing to work with us at CLTD to incorporate game-based learning as part of assessment in our short courses or scheduled professional learning opportunities?
Yeah, that's putting me on the spot. But yeah, as even and Nati, we're always open to collaborate. Yeah, so let's discuss the details.
Okay, and one more from the Padlet is, if you could give one piece of advice to an educator who's excited but nervous about trying digital game-based learning for the first time, what would it be?
I would say just do it. Just close your eyes and jump in. Sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. But we all learn and grow. And the students are actually very gracious because I think as lecturers, people think that the students are looking at you and they're waiting for you to fail and all of that. But they're actually very gracious. And I'm usually honest with the students. I'm usually telling them, listen, we're doing this for the first time. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but if it does, it's going to be awesome. So if it's not, we'll try again tomorrow. So just do it. That's my short answer.
Wow, okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, so Amanda, it can democratize participation, right? Because, you can engage students who may not thrive in a lecture-heavy setting, but it can also create new inequities, I would say. Of course, if resources, if training, or facilitation or access becomes uneven. So, of course, the ethical dimension is quite important. So, I know that we're not just gamifying for novelty, because we're probably looking at truly enhancing learning and teaching in a way that supports diverse students. So, in a way, from your findings, what are the risks of inequity, and how might we actually mediate them, whether it's from the faculty side or from the institutional side, or personally from you as the trailblazer?
That is a very important question. I always say in a class of 100 students that you implement gamification or game-based learning is out of the 100, 30 is going to be excited, 30 is going to hate it, and the rest is just going to do it for the sake of doing it. And I first want to talk about the fact that gamification or game-based learning is a leveler. Especially in a big class, usually students don't play Minecraft Education Edition. So usually, if you say we're doing that, maybe one or two in the class will have experience with that, and then they will be very good at it. While the rest of the class doesn't really know it, so they kind of learn and grow together. And the students also know each other. So when we start playing a game, any game, we kind of have a 15-minute to an hour orientation, depending on the class. And then we will let them sit in groups together. Then they will support each other through that initial phase. And then they play the game from there onwards. And the camaraderie is also very good to see. About creating a digital divide, because just a silly example is Minecraft uses plays better with a mouse, especially on a laptop. And our students these days don't use a mouse anymore. Um, so there might be a few of them that are really, really struggling with using a mouse, for example. So we do give extra time for that. So, but to answer your question around creating a a disparity is yes, for people that are not digitally literate or as literate as others, it will be a bigger learning curve. But someone I know said the other day, a very important thing is we all start somewhere, and from our background, some people might start um, on this at this area of the table, while someone else will start further, and someone else might start like 500 meters behind the rest. So we all need to meet our students where they are, and as an institution, I think there's space for more bridging courses, I think, um, because we're not all starting from the same place in the race. There's various reasons for that. Luckily, my dad taught the township children about computers, so I could also learn. But I mean, everybody didn't have that opportunity. So to answer your question, I think we need to maybe implement more bridging programs, and maybe not um, make it obvious that it's a bridging program. Make it maybe an extracurricular event, because we are not all starting in the same place. But I do believe that the interactiveness of game-based learning kind of makes it more fun for the students to do, and then they will also acknowledge more freely that they're not sure how a mouse works, for a silly example, or how this works when it's in a fun environment and when they don't feel threatened. Especially if I, as a lecturer, open up and say, listen, this is an experiment. I'm not sure if it's going to work. I think we just need to be honest and create more opportunities for bridging courses.
Oh, absolutely. Are there any takers here? Because you have sort of marketed, right? You can get in touch with Amanda. One last thing, your survey instrument. I was taken aback. Yes, it's carefully validated, right? And I know that you're looking for takers here. But how do you envision using it beyond our context, beyond what's perhaps nationally, even internationally, but to benchmark educator readiness for digital game-based learning?
Yes, so I am looking at implementing it outside of WITS, and this
Okay.
was phase 3 of my master's, but this is phase 1 of my PhD now. So there is a bit
Okay,
of
so
overlap. So we are looking at that, and also we're looking at revalidating the instrument because it was validated 2 years ago.
mhm.
And a lot has changed. If you blink your eyes, there's something new that you didn't know.
No, absolutely. And just one last thing, it's just nagging me. Have you thought about AI and how it's going to influence or impact?
Yes, so that's also what we are adding in now in the revalidation
Mm,
to, and AI is playing a big role in my PhD as well,
wow.
to see how we can use AI and game-based learning to make a difference.
Any further questions, comments? All right. So thank you, Amanda. That was very interesting, and I wish you all the best in your further studies. And any takers, please email Amanda. I'm sure the CLTD will be calling upon you.